Pastor John Paul Miller has been accused of something horrific. We're going to be talking about that in today's video. If you all do not know who Pastor John Paul Miller is, I'll give you a little bit of a refresher. I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you know, but if you don't, I don't want to leave you out. So Pastor John Paul Miller is obviously a pastor of a church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And his wife, she made a call to the police saying, let me know if you can track the location of my phone. I want my family to be able to know where my body is. There's been a lot of bizarre circumstances surrounding her death, even though it was ruled a suicide. Her husband, Pastor John Paul Miller, is a complete freaking weirdo, to say the least. His wife, Mica Miller, was actually posting on Facebook about, you know, people who are victims of abuse and talking about how she wanted to come out about some things, okay? And it alluded to there's some stuff going on behind the scenes involving that. And since then, there has been footage that has come out that shows that they had a very rocky relationship.
Mica, stop. Calm down, Mica, stop. Stop. I don't have your purse. Stop. No. Stop, Mica. Please. Stop, Mica, stop. Stop. I don't have your purse.
Walk away. Do you want to go to jail? Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
Her husband ended up going to church and preaching the very next day after he was told that she was found murdered. There's a lot of things that are pointing to he did it, okay? I am one of those people that I believe in my heart of hearts he had something to do with this. I truly do. I think when there are so many signs pointing to this person did this, they probably did this. There's something so off about him. There's footage of him having like this full-on breakdown in the grass, like curled up into a little ball, like crying. And one of the interesting things that kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about today is that Pastor John Paul Miller actually knew Mica when she was like 13 or 14 years old. I don't remember the exact age off the top of my head, but when she was a teenager. And he actually married another woman. And there's a lot of accusations that she has made against him, that he had like addictions. He would get prostitutes and things like that. He was a lot of accusations against him, to say the least. So it's interesting that he knew her when she was so young, and then guess what? He goes on to marry her after he divorces his wife and controls her. He has her get up in front of the church and sing, and he parades her around like she's some sort of trophy. He ended up having a tracking device on her car. So much wrong with this man, right? So there's all of these arrows pointing to he is a very bad person, and that he's a predator, and that he preys on innocent underage victims. There is someone that is named Jane Doe that has come out and accused him of R-wording her when she was a child. This is so easy for me to believe because he married someone that he knew when she was a child, right? So she said that she was 15 when this took place, and also said that people of his church help cover up his issues. And this isn't surprising to me either, as somebody who grew up in church, because people like this, they think they could just pray all of this away. Like, we need to protect him and we need to pray this away because he's a really, really good man. And if they do know the things that he did, it was just demons working through him that made him do this. And we can pray this away because underneath all of these bad things that he's done, he's a good man. And a lot of these people that are saying this and believing this have done awful things too, right? So they want forgiveness for it, so we'll forgive him. And there's just a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. Like, we'll use religion. This is not talking about everybody. I can already see people in my comments. If you feel like this is talking about you, it's probably talking about you, okay? But other than that, like, let's not be sensitive here unless you are guilty of this, of doing horrible things that hurt other people, like R-wording them, assaulting them, this, that, and the other, and then you think you can just like pray all the forgiveness on you. And you think that you can just like go on not being held accountable for that legally when you should be. Okay, if you're not like that, this isn't talking about you. Anyway, there are a lot of people that they get into religion because they are really bad people, and it makes them feel better about being bad people because they can put a band-aid over it. They can pray it away or go and confess it to their pastor or church leaders, and it'll make them feel better about themselves that they confessed. You know, it's like this weird thing that they do where it's like, I'm going to go and humiliate myself in front of these church leaders and tell them all these terrible things that I've done, and it makes it right. But there is a pattern that we've noticed in his behavior just from what people have accused him of, that he has a lot of issues. So this person who has come out and accused him of doing this to her when she was 15 said that in 2023 she saw him again. She was now 35 years old. It was 20 years later. And they went to give a hug, and he stuck his hand in her pants without her consent. And apparently this is where she had all these repressed memories come back that she kind of like buried. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that are like, why didn't you say something at the time? This happens, okay? I unfortunately went through a situation like this when I was 14. And, you bury this stuff. Sometimes this stuff, it's so painful that you will bury it and you won't think about it for so long. Something will jog the memory up and you're like, oh, I forgot that that happened. And especially like the older you get, like stuff just gets buried so deep that it's hard to remember certain things unless something jogs a memory. And it's like, that's just what happens with trauma. Trauma can be so painful that it's like our brains are trying to protect us from the pain of those memories, right? And so I believe this. I wholeheartedly believe this. And what's happening, I think, is that because there's so much spotlight on John Paul Miller for what he allegedly did to his wife, that I believe that he did, that she may feel comfortable now to come out and talk about it. I just want to say that like where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay, yes, sometimes people will accuse people of things that they didn't do. That happens. And that's unfortunate. And it's just, it's dark and messed up that people do that because there's enough horrible things going on in this world that why do we need to, you know, lie and try and ruin somebody's life about something that is not true. But in this situation, it's like his ex-wife has had things to say about him. Mica Miller's family has had stuff to say about him. There's been people that used to be members of the church that have stuff to say about him. So if you have this many people that are saying there's something wrong with this man, you need to listen. You need to listen. I feel like he got away with something. And I think that really what it is that call that Mica Miller made to the police that has people just like confused. It has me confused too. I obviously don't know that he did it, but I know that there is so much darkness and bad energy around this man. There's even a video of him like walking into his house in a Spider-Man suit. And I'm like, your wife was found dead. Like, what are you doing? Like, are you unwell? And the fact that he gets up there and preaches with a microphone to however many people are in his church and they're just eating up all of his words. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a Jody Hildebrandt or like cult leaders. You know, because sometimes churches, they're cults, okay? And the pastors are the cult leaders. But because it's a church and it's a pastor, we're going to pretend like it's different. It's like, no, this person's actually brainwashing you. And you're holding on to everything they're saying like they're God, okay? Instead of listening to your own intuition and making good decisions. I think in my life, I went to one church ever that I can think off the top of my head that the people there that I met that were the church leaders actually seemed like decent human beings. And the rest of them, and I've been to a lot of them growing up because I grew up religious, there was something like bad that happened. There was one man that was actually a church leader of a church that I went to as a child that ended up being accused of, I can't say it here on YouTube, but of doing stuff with children. And he actually himself in the head and it didn't work. And he ended up living through it. And that's a true story. And that was a pastor of a church that I went to growing up. So I have been in some bad churches. And so I'm qualified to say this, that a lot of them, the people in there, obviously not all of them, but a lot of them, you can't trust these people. You can't trust them. I think this man is a walking red flag. And so there's this also news where you guys know that story that came up. You may or may not know about it. So I'll tell you as if you didn't know. But John Paul Miller last year assaulted a protester because these protesters have been protesting outside of his church, doing the Lord's work, as you might say. They've been protesting outside of his church and calling him a murderer, this, that, and the other. And one of them he ended up assaulting, and like I think he took her phone or something like that. And anyways, that individual has continued to protest outside of his church. And so he went to a judge and stood in front of a judge with some of the other members of the church and asked for them to place a restraining order on her and 3 other people that protest outside of his church. He said that they're outside yelling, "You murderer," while I'm trying to, preach and spread the Lord's message. It's like, there's people there that are like backing him up, right? Like they're there, like standing behind him, like, yeah. I don't know what they actually said, but it's like, yeah, we're trying to spread the Lord's message and sing gospel music, and they're out there yelling murderer because he allegedly murdered his wife. And so the judge told him no. He said, I am all for the, amendment right to be able to protest, and I see no reason to place a restraining order on this person. It's so funny because he assaulted one of these people, and then he's trying to place a restraining order on them. Like, get these people off my church's lawn so that I do not have to be held accountable any longer for what I may or may not have done. I don't know, okay? Him getting up there in front of the church the day after Mica was found dead, him getting up there and preaching in front of the congregation, he literally preached an entire sermon. These are like an hour and a half long, sometimes 2 hours long. Gets up there and preaches an entire sermon and doesn't one time mention, oh yeah, my wife was found dead yesterday, until the very end of it. Preached the whole thing without breaking down, without crying, without showing any emotion over the fact that his wife was just found dead. He gets through the whole thing. And then at the end says, I don't want to talk about it. Don't talk to me about it. Don't talk about it amongst yourselves. Just leave. But I had to tell you this. She is found dead. And you expect me to believe this man didn't have something to do with this? You expect me to believe that? Are you kidding me? The fact that somebody like this is allowed to get up there and preach to people and tell people what to do and how to live their lives. It's disgusting. It's so disturbing to me. Who are the people that are going to this church? Who are they? They are not well. They are not well. You cannot hear all this stuff about Pastor John Paul Miller and then keep going there. It's like, oh, he's so nice and charismatic and friendly. Yeah, all people like that are, because you can't be a cult leader and you can't traumatize people and take advantage of people if you aren't first charismatic and friendly. You have to get people to like you in order to do all the crap that he does. You know what I mean? Like, it always starts with them being friendly and nice. That's where it starts. Shame on anybody that goes to this church. I'm horrified. I'm not surprised that this Jane Doe came out and accused him of this stuff. I think it makes complete sense, and I believe her. Let me know what you all think in the comments down below. If you guys would like to check out my Etsy shop where I sell my handmade jewelry, I will have it linked down below. Every purchase supports me in creating this content for you, and I greatly appreciate it. I package everything up and ship it from my house, so definitely check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you soon for another one.